Controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate has been arrested in Romania.
Mr. Tate was arrested when his house was raided in the capital Bucharest as part of a human trafficking and rape investigation.
The Matrix has attacked me.
Hello and welcome to the Nexus, on location in Romania and on the trail of Andrew Tate, who was arrested here last month. Prosecutors accuse the 36-year-old influencer, who was born in America and raised in England, of human trafficking and forming an organised crime group. Now, he may not be well known to older people, but to the younger generation, he is a very significant figure. Millions of especially young men and boys follow him online, and they admire him and aspire to be like him. But he's also deeply mistrusted and hated by others, who see him as nothing more than a misogynistic conman who's misleading his followers. Now, coming up in the programme, we're going to be hearing from his lawyer, who's been visiting him twice a day in jail.
He's not very well. He's disappointed, but he's willing to resist.
We'll also be hearing from a sex trafficking expert who believes the allegations are credible.
I have no doubt that they are involved in human trafficking and exploitation of women.
But first, let me take you to a couple of key locations where this story has been unfolding. And we're going to begin at Tate's residence, where he was arrested.
We drive a couple of kilometres outside of the capital, and the further we get from Bucharest, the more remote it feels. Properties are still being built, and we pass a large graveyard. Then we spot the American Village compound where a young woman, a Ukrainian refugee who worked for Tate, used to live. She recently defended him in an article, saying he had done nothing wrong. Just around the corner, we find Tate's HQ, an anonymous-looking building with fortress vibes, which shows up on the map as Hustlers University.
Hustlers University may be closed today.
Okay, we've arrived at Tate's compound just outside of the capital, Bucharest. I was expecting some security here, but there doesn't appear to be anyone around. Let's push the buzzer. Nobody at home.
With no one answering and no security about, we take the opportunity to peer through the gate. Tate has had a number of his supercars seized, but there are still plenty here. On the night of the raid, December the 29th, a Romanian SWAT team entered the property along with a prosecutor. Tate and his brother and two women were arrested on suspicion of human trafficking and forming an organised crime group. Someone in their group is also suspected of rape.
You need to know, this isn't the first time this compound has been raided. The first time was back in April, when police were called and told that an American woman was being held inside here against her will.
Investigators did find a woman in the building and questioned the Tate brothers for hours. They denied any wrongdoing and were released. But the incident did trigger the investigation, which culminated in this second raid and their arrest last month.
Now, after the raid on this compound, prosecutors issued this statement.
The four suspects appear to have created an organised crime group with the purpose of recruiting and exploiting women by forcing them to create pornographic content meant to be seen on specialised websites for a cost. Prosecutors also said the Tate brothers lured the women into their orbit by promising them a relationship, a human trafficking tactic known as the lover boy method. So far, prosecutors say they found 6 potential victims. He says he's been attacked by the Matrix.
Now, at this point in the story, some of you may still be a bit confused about who Tate is and what he means by the Matrix. So we put together this short explainer.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
The Matrix is everywhere. Fact-checked studies that everybody believes, the news you watch, the way you've been taught to think, the educational system, the opinions of the people who love you. The Matrix exists to blind you from the truth.
From a self-described truth teller and social media phenomena to a suspected human trafficker, it appears the Matrix has finally caught up with Andrew Tate.
Once you escape the Matrix and you try and find a way to get your wealth outside of the system, then you can exist geographically anywhere. And once you can do that, then laws don't really apply to you. If they made a law in the UK I was unhappy with, I'd just leave. And if they made a law in Romania where I live I'm unhappy with, I would just leave. I don't have to be a lawbreaker. I don't have to be a criminal. I'll just go somewhere else, right?
The influencer offers his followers a way out of the system, which he claims is deliberately holding them back. He sees his arrest, which he predicted, as part of a conspiracy to silence the truth about the way the world really works. Most people are slaves, forced by governments to limit what they say, do, and even think.
The reason I think we live in a matrix now is because I think the same thing is happening. Perhaps it's not our body heat, perhaps it's our work, our ideas, but they're being salvaged, and the reality they've given us to occupy our brains is false.
If this all sounds a bit far-fetched to you, remember that millions of young men and boys are listening closely to what he has to say. His content has been viewed more than 12 billion times across all forms of social media, and that's despite him now being barred from almost all of them, with the notable exception of Elon Musk's Twitter.
I like the color. You like the color?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had mixed reviews on the color. Some people said they like it, some people said they don't like it, and I said, well, what color's your Bugatti?
He's not the first person to say there are shadowy forces running the world, but he is in some ways the biggest. He was one of the most Googled people of last year.
First they shut you up so they can lie about you. So they shut me up, then they did the massive media push to try and attempt to lie about me. But despite that, the majority of comments regarding me are still positive. The majority of people believe and understand that this ban is unfair.
But what qualifies Andrew Tate, of all people, to tell the kids how the world really works? Why do they take him seriously? Well, for one thing, he's the embodiment of the rags to riches story.
We just have our meal early. KFC. I'm from the streets. Nothing's changed. I'm a poor guy with a lot of money. I'm not a rich man. I'm just a poor man who made a bunch of money.
Having escaped his humble background, he is now, for many, the complete package of how a man should be. He's tough, a former kickboxing world champion. He's rich, flying around in private jets and driving supercars.
So I was broke for a long time. I made my first million when I was, say, 27, and then I had 100 million by the time I was 31, 32. And then I became a trillionaire quite recently.
And he boasts of being incredibly successful with women. And one of his greatest assets, which shouldn't be underestimated, is his bombastic and persuasive way of speaking.
He says very wise things. He says ridiculous but also says really interesting things. He's a very smart guy.
He's very good at building business. He's proven it. He's made himself extremely rich doing it. A lot of what he says about masculinity and stuff, I completely would sign up to.
The fact he's tough, rich and confident is probably beyond dispute, but the way he got to where he is today, to some people, is rather distasteful and undermines his claim to be a role model. After retiring from kickboxing, he admits he had barely $85,000 to his name. To get where he is today, he sold drugs in the early days, internet porn, invested in casinos, and sells so-called business courses at his Hustlers University, where thousands of subscribers pay him $50 a month, netting him millions every month.
Think about it. You've been told you're going to escape the matrix. You're going to take the red pill. But what you end up doing in this course is sort of learning how to run an Amazon side hustle for Jeff Bezos. Like, no offense, you're not breaking the matrix. You work for the richest guy in the world. Like, imagine Morpheus gives Neo the red pill and says, hey, have you ever day traded before?
His critics say he's exploited people in every line of business. But it's how he ran his sex chat business and how he allegedly treated women that landed him in jail.
At one point, I had 75 women working for me in 4 locations.
Damn.
And I was doing $600,000 a month from webcam. So
this is in the UK.
This is in the UK. This is in the UK. So, but this leads into the story of why I moved to Romania. So, at the height of my webcam pimping, I think I'm the king of the world, right?
His critics say there's exhaustive evidence of his misogyny online.
I'm all over the place. So I end up with all these chicks just stuck in their house, sitting there, bored, completely in love with me. And of course, they don't go out. They're not allowed out. No, you stay in the house. You don't go nowhere.
But his supporters say he's just playing a character, and this can't be taken too seriously. But the problem with Tate is that he's constantly contradicting himself. A prime example is when he explained why he moved to Romania in the first place. First, he says it's because he can buy off Romanian officials.
Oh no, not a court in Romania. They're corruption-free, as we all know. They put me in jail. I'm gonna walk in there with a pile of money like this.
Then he complains that anyone saying such a thing is racist.
To quickly address the rumors that I'm a sex trafficker and that's why I live in Romania. Firstly, that's a very, very racist attitude to have. I find it strange that the left and people who speak and talk about tolerance and inclusivity will assume that Romania as a country will allow me to be a rapist.
We've moved on to the courthouse now, another very important stage in this story. Initially, prosecutors were able to detain the Tates for around 24 hours, but then they brought the case here to a judge and petitioned to extend the detention to 30 days, which he did.
The judge justified her decision by stating the Tates with their multiple passports were a flight risk and that after watching their videos online, they have a profound lack of respect towards legal norms and a total indifference to protected social values. We put all these issues to the Tates' lawyer, who we find busy preparing their defence, but also inundated by inquiries from the press.
Now, your client, Andrew Tate, is accused of human trafficking and forming an organised crime group. Is that true? Is that what they've been doing here in Romania?
My clients, don't recognize the allegations against them, and their positions in front of the prosecutors and in front of the judge were not to recognize these felonies that pretending to be done by them. And they support us as a team of lawyers with all the proofs and evidences is needed to prove their innocency.
The prosecutor is quite a well-established person and would not have brought this case if they didn't have the evidence.
Legally, yes, but we are now in a phase of investigation. It's not a public phase of a trial. And we are not talking in this moment if the defendant is guilty or is not guilty regarding a felony. We are now in a phase that the prosecutors didn't finish the investigation, and I think that it's very early to talk about if we have a case or we don't have a strong case. The prosecutor has also the possibility not to send this case in the court to be judged.
The prosecutor says 6 alleged victims were found, all women, at the Tate properties. Now, were these women being held there and exploited?
From our point of view and from the position explained by our client, I will say a definitely no. And as argument to my position is the fact that when the investigator came in the house of our clients, the doors were opened, all the girls had access to their own phone number, cellular data. If somebody is kept in a house against his will and he has his phone and he has the possibility to post on social media, on Instagram, to make TikTok content, to talk to the phone, has the same possibility to call 112.
Or to just leave the house.
Or to just leave the house because we have the evidences by the cameras from the house that the girls were alone in the house, that they demand food at that address. They were ordering food, they were visiting the town, the mall, they were making shopping together.
But just because they have the ability to leave and to order food and go shopping, that doesn't mean that they're not being human trafficked. According to some experts, Andrew Tate employs the lover boy method, which is to make the women fall in love with them, make them feel under his control, to handle all of the finances and make them dependent on him. Is it true that Andrew Tate has been employing the lover boy technique, which technically speaking is human trafficking?
It's a pity that at this moment, legally speaking, because the investigation is not public, I am not allowed by the law to give more details. But I will give you that this lover boy method is not sustained by the evidences, and we have contrary evidences. And I am wondering, were all the girls so in love with Andrew Tate that all of the girls had their brain washed by this method of lover boy.
But as his lawyer, are you aware of the numerous bits of video evidence that are out there on YouTube and elsewhere where your client talks very explicitly about how he controls the women who work for him? It's very clear from the public record that he's already talked about the lover boy technique and how to control and manipulate these women.
Okay. I don't know by heart all the videos of Andrew Tate. We are now in a phase that we have to prepare other type of defendings for our clients. But I wondering myself, are we talking about the real Andrew Tate on those videos, or are you talking about a character? Because from my point of view, as you know, nowadays a lot of people are posting content on internet just to sell an image, a character. I am not sure that we are talking about the real person, Andrew Tate.
In previous videos, we have seen your client, Andrew Tate, boasting of being able to pay off the Romanian criminal justice system. So is that the intention for Andrew Tate now that he's actually, in jail? Is he going to try to buy off the Romanian criminal justice system?
For sure, no. As a lawyer, I can say a big no. A big no.
He's going to have to go through...
And I don't want to answer, to comment anymore, because I don't know this statement of my client, this declaration of my client.
But again, you might think that that's just him playing a character.
It is possible. It is possible.
When your client was arrested, he said very enigmatically, the Matrix has sent their agents to get me. The Matrix has attacked me. Can you explain what he means by that?
I also don't know. I heard the story of Matrix, but I don't know. I have a serious profession and I didn't ask my client about this Matrix story because I think that is about something on media platforms or internet platforms. Well, and I don't know about this story with Matrix.
He thinks there is a global system that includes big tech and governments and so on that is trying to control and inhibit the way pretty much everyone lives, and that he has been targeted by them. Some people might even call it the deep state, if you like. He has been targeted by them because he is trying to emancipate young men. Now, do you believe that as his lawyer?
I don't believe that. And I think that if you are talking about my client beliefs, you should ask him at the proper time about this matter. This matter, it doesn't have to do anything with my activity as lawyer.
Just a final question then. I know you visit your client perhaps twice a day sometimes. How is Mr. Tate doing?
He is not very well. He's disappointed, but he is willing to resist and to help the investigators to find the truth, to present all the evidences that he has in his favor, and he hopes that he will take part, it will take part of a fair trial.
A short drive from the lawyer's office, and we're at the jail where the Tates are being held, where we shoot a short video for social media.
And I'm going to approach the guard in a minute and ask him if he'll let us in for an interview. It's extremely unlikely. The prosecutor doesn't want it. The lawyer told us even the Tate brothers don't want to talk to the media right now. Hello, I'm from TRT World in London. Potsa Ulvad Tate.
Surprisingly, the guard waves me in, but after discussions with his superiors, disappointment.
Okay, well, they wouldn't let us film inside, they wouldn't let us go and talk to him, but we can fill out a request form and we may get an opportunity to speak to him on the phone or possibly in person if they like us.
At the time of recording, we're still waiting for the prosecutor and the Tate brothers to get back to us. At the Romanian-American University in Bucharest, we find law professor Silvia Tăbușcă, an expert in human trafficking and consultant to the UN and EU. She's eager to talk about the allegations against Andrew Tate.
For me, the allegations are very credible. I have identified many information on the Andrew's Twitter's website and also other sites that are linked to his companies, in which he clearly says that he is a lover boy, and he talks about the recruiting method, how he fools girls from all over the world in order to convince them to produce pornographic material for him, how he is able to get rich from exploiting these girls. So all this information are public, and they are made actually public by the offenders. I have no doubt that they are involved in human trafficking and exploitation of women.
In the past, Andrew Tate has boasted of being able to buy off Romanian authorities if he needs to. Do you think that that is a possibility today in 2023?
I think that he prepared somehow his arrest. He knew actually there is an investigation against him because one of the former police officers in Romania now is part of his network. And probably he had a lot of information about what's going on. So he was prepared for this moment. And I see in social media that he mentioned that he is going to be arrested. And also that he transferred her assets on other persons' names in order not to be confiscated if he will be investigated.
You mentioned that human traffickers in Romania have a set plan, a 5-point plan that they work from, essentially. Can you describe that for us?
The first step is to build trust. And this step is the most important one, because if they are able to build trust with a potential victim, very, very powerful, they know that that person will be for sure their victim forever. Once they build this trust, they use whatever is needed, nice words, very elegant behavior, money, different proposals. The second stage is to seduce the girl. So from a trusting perspective, they go further into an intimate relationship. And during this period of time, they try to be sure that the girl is in love with them crazily. They use different techniques. Some of them are sexual techniques in order to create a kind of dependency on the victim. The third step is the isolation of other persons. They will do whatever is needed in order to isolate the victim from the family and friends. And after that, they destroy the values of that girl. They ask them to have sexual relation with other person or in group, or they are raped during this period of time. Whatever method is needed in order to destroy the values of that person. Once the values are destroyed, the exploitation starts. And being very much in love with this person, most of the victims are in a Stockholm syndrome, and they are not able to identify themselves as being exploited, or they are not able to fight for their rights or to testify against the traffickers.
Back at the courthouse, we find two groups of young Romanians. The young men are in favour of Tate, the young women firmly against.
Are o personalitate ca lumea. Da, e băiat fain. Isn't true about that traffic. Isn't true. Justiția e rea la noi, da?
Ei ce vor să...
Vorbește bine de orice.
Își vede treaba lui,
Are
cu afacerile lui.
Are lovele, money. I like money.
You like money?
Yeah.
Tate has money?
Yes.
What if he is a human
Acum nu
trafficker?
mai face răutăți, că e băiatul minții.
Nu, dar nu face el, are lumea cidă pe el care prea multe fete și bani și
mașini și case și tot ce
Dreptate
vrea.
în toate alea. He speak the truth. That's why they took him.
May I ask, what do you think about this man?
Well, honestly, I think he's a horrible man. He did so much damage to society and in social media, and honestly, I'm very glad that he was finally discovered by the authorities.
We've just been speaking to 3 or 4 young men on the steps here, and they say he speaks the truth, he has lots of money, and he's their hero.
We do not agree with that statement at all. We believe that he uses women to gain power over them, and that's how he makes his money.
Do you believe that the Romanian authorities will be able to successfully prosecute him?
I surely hope so, because I think this has been going on for way too long. I think he just has some really harmful ideologies, especially when it comes to women. Like, I've seen these ideologies were supposed to be moving from them, and he's just bringing them back.
During our time in Romania, we've heard all sorts of opinions and rumours about Andrew Tate. His supporters have told us they would stick with him even if he were convicted. But his critics hope his arrest will wake them up to who he really is. Not a good shepherd leading them out of the matrix, but an unscrupulous con artist who's very much part of it.